This is Michael Spedden, and welcome to Foul Players Radio, your one-stop shop for all of your pop culture needs. We feature interviews from musicians, actors, comics, dancers, authors, and much, much more, up-and-coming artists and beloved favorites. We've got it all, people on stage, backstage, out front, and behind the scenes. Sit back and relax. Let's have some fun.
Hey, Mary Jo Peel here, and you are listening to Foul Players Radio.
Hi, folks. This is Jay David, and you're listening to Foul Players Radio.
Hey, folks, Michael Spedden here, and welcome back to another episode of Foul Players Radio. Today, we had the great pleasure of having David Finkle return to the show. He's got a brand new book coming out called Trumpty 2.0. Trump's first 100 days in 100 verses, where he writes a poem basically about every day of the Trump administration's, what's going on every day in the Trump administration, the headlines, the news about that and everything. And it's his sequel. It was the first one was called Trumpty Hit a Brick Wall. That came out, I believe, during his last term. So, very well done books. We also talked again about some of the other books that he's had out and is working on right now too. So we'll hear all about those. His podcast with a group of people that he does called The Hour of Lateral Thinking, which is on the Progressive News Network, I believe, is what it was found on. But I will put the correct address in the show notes. So again, very nice guy. I always enjoy talking to David. I feel like we could talk for hours every time I have him on as a guest. So enjoy. His website is davidfinklewrites.com. And he's Finkle with an L-E, not an E-L at the end, not to confuse him, because there is another writer out there with that name. So davidfinklewrites.com. And I, again, will put all this information in the show notes. So enjoy the episode, and we'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Emmy Jo.
And I'm Doug, and we're from the New Zoo Review, and you're watching Foul Players Radio.
Hi, this is Paul Castiglia, and you're listening to Foul Players Radio, the one-stop shop for all your pop culture needs.
And welcome back to Foul Players Radio. We are back today. We can't get rid of this guy. What can we say here? My friend David Finkle has returned. He is a book writing machine, and he has another brand new book that is out for all of us to get our hands on and read. It's a sequel to one that he had written before, Trumpty Hit a Brick Wall. This one is called Trumpty 2.0, Trump's first 100 days in 100 verses. So, David, welcome back, buddy. It's good to talk to you. I'm glad that you're looking well.
Well, I'm glad you think I'm looking well, and I really like talking to you, Mike, because you interviewed me on my previous book, and by the end of the interview, I thought, I've made a new friend. This guy is so terrific.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. I'm really honored by that, and I appreciate it, David. Well, and it's great to have you back, and I'm glad to see that you're still, still creating. Creative people, we have to create all the time. It's a healthy addiction, I think.
That raises a really important question.
Mm-hmm.
Is writing an addiction for writers? And I was doing an essay for something today,
mm-hmm.
in which I said, sometimes authors write because they cannot not write. They get story, or I guess I'm talking for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I get stories inside me, and I think if I don't let this out, or I might get just the urge, or a first sentence, or something, or a dream. One of my novels, The Man with the Overcoat, started with a dream. I woke up, and with just this image from a dream, which was a man in a business suit at the end of the working day is standing in a lobby of a Fifth Avenue. I'm in New York City, so I read a lot about New York City and said things in New York City because I always feel you need to write about what you know, and I know New York City.
Sure.
And he's standing in front of the elevators in this dream, and suddenly an elevator door in front of him, the one he's waiting to get on, opens, and a man carrying a briefcase, and he's carrying a man carrying a briefcase, and an overcoat steps off of the elevator and hands the overcoat to the man waiting to get on. And it happens so fast that he takes it and then wonders, why do I have this? Where is this guy? I don't want this. And the guy has disappeared. And he wants to give the coat back. And he spends the next 24 hours trying to give the coat back and has a series of, for him, awakening episodes. But it all came from and when I woke up, I thought, I think I can write about that. And I thought, well, I better.
Yeah.
But that's all I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started writing, and it, in a way, it began to write itself. And I'll say that I think I've talked to other writers, friends of mine who write, and I've said frequently when I'm writing, it feels like I'm taking dictation, that the characters present themselves, and then I'm just taking down what they have to say to each other and where they go and what they do. With the Humpty Trumpty hit a brick wall and Humpty Trumpty 2.0, it wasn't so much that, it was that the current occupant of the White House kept doing things that I found so objectionable. I had to deal with my despair by finding a way to get it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, so much of what I've objected to in the first book, the first year of the administration, in the second book, the first 100 days, in some ways, I'm sort of glad for part of me is glad for what he's done because he's given me something to write about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
You know, Dave, that's a good point right there because I can remember, I forget who it was. It was one of the talking heads. And I can't remember what year the election was, but they were saying, well, what are you going to do with yourself now that this person's gone? Because you basically spend your entire show busting on that person. And they're like, well, hey, I've got a whole new cast of characters now, is pretty much what the person said, and yeah, there's a lot to write about, for sure. I would say there's definitely a lot going on.
When I was talking to a friend when I'd probably gotten past the first 50 days, and I said, I'm writing this book. I'm doing it again, but I've promised myself it would only be 100 days. And but he gives me the material just keeps coming. And this friend of mine got this kind of hangdog look on his face and said, well, I hope you run out of material.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And,
That could be
my response was fat chance.
Yeah. I know, never a dull moment here, I tell you. Never a dull moment.
No. And what is that old Chinese expression, may you live in interesting times, the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Well, we are. We're living in interesting times.
We sure are. We sure are, you know. So I was looking at your books that you have here, and one thing that we were kind of talking about before we started, before we hit record, was the artwork. And the first book that you have, the artwork reminds me a lot of like an old-fashioned nursery rhyme book, with the old style illustration. And the new one now, I think it's really neat how it looks, the illustration on the cover and everything. It looks a lot more futuristic, and it's, 2.0. I like how you kind of put that in there and you have more of a like a futuristic looking cover, and using something like 2.0. I think that's really, that was really a good idea.
Well, the both there are two illustrators, one each for the books.
Yeah, yeah.
The first book, and I love that because it was Humpty Dumpty,
Mm-hmm.
which is a child, an old verse, a child verse, a child rhyme. Um, immediately suggests that it should look like a children's book.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And illustrator was Roberta Granson, who, when the second book we were putting together, we asked her to do it, but she wasn't able to. Something was in the way, and so we turned to the daughter of one of of a publisher's daughter, and I wasn't sure. Well, you can't sort of say no. You can't have your daughter try it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said yes, and what she came back with was so good. And
Mm-hmm.
her name is uh, Charlie Mulheron, and she did a really good job. And they're not just the cover photos; there are illustrations through the book. And in this book, she's done Trump, of course, and Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth and uh, a few of J.D. Vance. So she's gotten around to a lot of the inner Trump circle.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, but in the verses themselves do get around to a lot of people. Elon
Right,
Musk
right.
and Kash Patel and
Mhm.
all the people you'd expect that I would have wanted to memorialize in print.
Right, right, right. Well, you've got a big cast of characters, and a lot of times a lot of turnover too. So you'll never run out of characters, I don't think.
No, but I don't. He's the one thing you'll say about him is he's loyal to the people in his circle.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, and people have been calling, particularly in the last week or so, have been calling for Kash Patel to either resign or be fired, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not happening. The president keeps saying he's doing a great job. She's doing a great job,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't see in many administrations after the first year there are frequently changes,
Yeah, there are.
and he may feel that he can do that then because it's more like the routine.
Mm-hmm.
That it's what happens after a year. Not that these people haven't many of these people who are widely considered to be unqualified.
Mm-hmm.
He's not he won't look as if they're going for that reason.
Right, right,
Uh,
right, right. Yep. So this is great, and you had talked about, again, kind of tying into what you had said about, not running out of, not being able to run out of material. And you had made this, the title, The First 100 Days, in 100 verses. So you get these 100 days down, you get them, ready to be published, ready to go out. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get a whole bunch more material, you know?
I was thinking when I finished 100 days, I'd I'd done my duty, I'd done my fill,
Mm-hmm.
and yet, and actually, I should say that when I wrote each day, when I wrote the new one, I would
Mhm.
put it up on Facebook. So they were all available on Facebook
Sure, sure,
for
sure.
the first 100 days. And then I just took everything together and put the book together.
Hmm.
Um, but it's been impossible for me not to do the occasional one after the first 100 days. I
Hmm.
put one up even today, which
Right.
which had to do with Trump's inability to stop himself from projecting, from voicing hate speech,
Right. Right.
which he even did at the Charlie Kirk Memorial after Kirk's wife,
Hmm.
Erica, had spoken about forgiveness and said that she even forgave Tyler Robinson, um, the alleged assassin, which was really moving and certainly very spiritual of her. I mean, truly religious.
Hmm.
And but he can't. I mean, he put out his Bible, and he's held it up upside down. But I don't think he's a man who lives by the Bible. Not not if it's Old Testament or New Testament
Hmm.
teaching, um, which troubles me a lot. Um,
Right. Right. Yeah, it seems like and there's just I watch and read a lot of podcasts and things. There are just a lot of religious groups out there that have really just not taken, what's really in there, and really lived by it. It seems like a number of these, some people call them cults, religious sects, fringe groups, whatever you'd want to call them. It almost seems like, a lot of the things that are written in there, or things that have been written in there and altered to communicate to the masses in these groups, they, they have they really hold the people in these groups to the letter of that law, but these leaders of these groups are just off doing whatever they want. And that's happened, quite a bit in,
oh
a lot
yes.
of these different, religious sects and fringe
Well,
religious groups and things.
Jamestown, if people remember that.
There you go. That's a good example right there. That's a good example. That's a good example. And it's but a lot of things happened within the the Catholic Church, over the years. Pretty much, if you name any kind of religious organization out there, there's been corruption, and then there's been people who just really don't live by what the group or organization really is supposed to stand for, which is really troubling. Um,
Very
really
troubling.
troubling.
Um, I, I read, was it today or in the last few days, that Pope Leo the 14th
Mhm.
is going to be addressing the problems here
Yeah, yeah.
as he sees them. Um, he will do it, of course, in a very well shaped way.
Hmm.
But I have a feeling that he's not going to be uh, not in exactly not forgiving of, but will not ignore certain things he feels are being done incorrectly. And here he is, a Chicago
Hmm.
native
Right.
who probably, knowing his city, where his at least one brother still lives,
Hmm.
he's certainly aware of the threat to send the National Guard to Chicago,
Hmm.
which my guess is he would not have been is not in favor of.
Right. Right.
And so will probably in some way let that be known.
Hmm.
And which I'll be glad to hear, and I think a lot of people will be glad to hear. Um, and he seems like he seems like I was, I really admired Pope Francis, and I think he also admired Pope Francis and is going to carry on his years in that along that path. So, but I don't know where I'm going now.
Yeah, but yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I understand what you were saying. I understand what you were
And
saying.
it's part of why I felt I had to I had to write,
Hmm.
and because if something is inside me,
Hmm.
if I keep the story, if I hold on to it, I can feel it festering inside me
Right,
and
right.
affecting my insides. So I have to get it out.
Yep.
It took me a long time. I didn't start writing really seriously until I was in my 50s.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was very slow about that.
Hmm.
And part of the reason was that I was a reader from the time I was very young. And by the time I was 10 or 12, I was reading bestsellers.
Hmm.
In those years, I was reading historical romances.
Hmm.
Um, Forever Amber, which was a huge hit in 1945, I did not read, but that started a whole trend of women writers, and that wasn't written by that was written by a man. No, it wasn't. It was written by Kathleen Winsor, I think. Um, but anyway, there suddenly there were a lot of historical romances, and I started reading them. But then I started reading everybody else.
Hmm.
You know, nobody my age at that point would not have read Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, sure. That was huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
And and um and so I started reading that, and what I felt was, now then I got to Saul Bellow and Philip Roth and John Cheever and Hemingway, of course. And I thought, if I can't write as well as those people, why should I bother?
Mhm.
But so it was only when I was in my 50s that I did get one story I had to write. It was autobiographical fiction, but I had to write it. And it came out kind of pretty well. And I thought, well, maybe I can do more of this. And I have done more. And I think I've gotten to the point where I found my voice, as people talk about a writer's voice,
Hmm.
maybe too much, but I found my voice. And I think I've written a few things. Um, I think I've written a few things that are on the level of the people that I really admired. Um, there's a And I'll mention a writer that your listeners may not know about, who died about, I think she died about 2 years ago. Her name is Mavis Gallant,
Hmm.
Gallant. She was from Montreal, but when she was 20 or 22, she moved to Paris and she started writing short stories. And she began to be published in The New Yorker. And John Cheever and Mavis Gallant have the record. One of them wrote, I think, 121 stories that were published in the New Yorker, and the other wrote 118. But nobody else has ever had that kind of record. I once interviewed her in Paris, and she met me on the Boulevard Montparnasse at a place called the Café Select,
Hmm.
which was directly opposite La Coupole, where Hemingway would hang out. But she wanted to meet there because it was her favorite place. And one of the reasons was that she had befriended a lot of women who had been in concentration camps. And when they got out of them, came to Paris and found the Select. And she got to know these women. which is kind of a fascinating part of her history.
Yeah, yeah.
But her collected stories are available, and recently they published the uncollected stories of Mavis Gallant. So
Wow.
she's, but why did I bring her up? Because she's one of those writers that you read and you think, I don't know whether I could ever write this well.
Hmm.
But I also will say to writers, and I believe that everybody has a story in him or her.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has a story. And so I try to encourage people to write. But I just think that I just think people can write. And they may think that they cannot. But if any listeners say, gee, I know I'd like to write something, I'd like to write something, turn on a tape recorder and you don't have to write it. Just dictate it. Just talk it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to know everybody's story.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think, and you hear someone say, oh, so and so, she's so boring. He's so boring. I think if he told or she told her story, you wouldn't be bored at all.
Mhm. I absolutely love storytelling. I absolutely, whether it's of course, fictional stories, but I'm really, really into well, then this is the reason why I do this show. I'm really into hearing people's life stories, hearing about what goes into what they do, what were things like at in different times. And I absolutely love hearing stories. I went to a great, great show that I happened to MC for 97 Underground not too long ago. You're familiar with Ricky Nelson?
Which Ricky Nelson?
From the singer from the 50s and 60s.
Of course,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Ricky. I'm familiar with all Ozzy and Harriet.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I didn't know if you knew this or not, but Ricky Nelson has three children. Three of his four children went into the business too. His daughter was an actress, Tracy Nelson, who was on. She's been in a lot of shows like the Father Dowling Mysteries with Tom Bosley, if you remember that. And then she has twin brothers, Gunnar and Matthew, who got into music and had a band. They had a lot of hits in the late 80s and early 90s, and they've been performing all along, but they recently just did a tour where it was just the two of them with acoustic guitars, and they would play a couple of songs, and then they would have like a big multimedia video playing behind them, and then they would tell stories about what it was like growing up with your dad being Ricky Nelson. What was it like, when your father was friends with the Beach Boys and you got to hang around with the Beach Boys and their kids, and what it was like growing up in that. And I'm fascinated by these things. That's the type of thing I really like to listen to. So stories, I agree, are really a great thing, and I love hearing what makes people tick. I love hearing how things are made.
When you think
know?
about it, it had to be that there couldn't have been anything before in the earliest caveman communal evenings. They had to be telling stories.
Yeah.
They want to, and also stories are a necessity that people need stories because they need the world explained to them.
Right,
So
right.
stories were made up, myths came to be.
Myths. Yeah.
Gods were created in stories because
Hmm.
what explained the sun rising and the sun setting and then rising the next day.
Right, right. Oh, I mean, I think just about every culture across the globe back in those days had their explanation for fire, the sun rising, the sun setting, lightning and thunder, tidal waves, you name it. There was a story that they came up with for
Oh,
it.
sure. The lightning, thunder were the gods carrying on.
Right, right. They were. Or there, I think there was another one I heard that was a Scandinavian one, had something to do with Thor making something with his hammer, making a sword or something and beating it, something along those lines, carrying on. And the thing is, it's really funny, like the Greek and Roman myths. I've heard some African ones, some from different parts of Europe.
Everybody has their myths.
Yeah, Native American Indians.
I mean, we're
You know,
living at a time when, there was a time when people wasn't communication across oceans. There wasn't
right.
communications from tribe to tribe in
Hmm.
many places. So they all had made up their own stories to
Hmm.
explain the unexplainable.
Right, right.
And so I've always, and also speaking about that, I, my parents read aloud to me when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And I think that's a great way to hear stories. And that's, I think, why a lot of people nowadays like to be read aloud to. And so they get Audible books
Yes,
and
yes.
they drive around listening to stories.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just, it's kind of a human need.
As busy as I get sometimes, because I have to prepare for, my show, I have, I'm not only am I reading books, but I'm listening to albums that come in from the radio station, the people that, they send us albums all the time. I'm constantly reviewing, not writing reviews, but just listening to albums so I can, talk about them with when I have them on my radio show. Um, and audiobooks, I tell you that I can get into things by listening as well as read. Sometimes reading loses me a little bit, but listening, especially when it's read by the author, because I mean, you can have an actor read an audiobook, but if you actually have the author themselves narrate the book, um, you really that takes you one more level of really bringing you there and making you feel
I,
like you're
I
part of it.
agree. I absolutely agree with you
Hmm.
on that when the author, it's just like when songwriters sing their own songs.
Hmm.
It's they're singing it what they wrote.
Hmm.
And but I love that. For several years I reviewed audiobooks for NPR.
Hmm.
And so I listened to a lot of people. Most of the books were read by actors,
Hmm.
but as you just said, the best, not maybe not all the best of them, because were read by the authors. And the best one who read his own work was John le Carré, who wrote, that great spy thriller writer, whose work really transcended. He was just a great writer. Um, and because his father was a con man.
Hmm.
And
Wow. Okay.
and one of his books was very much about based on his father.
Hmm.
And his sister, his real name was David Cornwell, and he had a sister who uh, who was an actress in London.
Mm.
So they both got the ability to act. And so frequently when an author reads his own books, and there are many characters, he will read the dialogue
Mhm.
in his own voice. He won't create characters. But Cornwell had the acting urge and the acting affinity. And so he would read his characters as different characters, as the character he wanted the character to sound, not like him just reading that line. So I recommend reading John le Carré, Soldiers, the Smiley novels, and well, all of them. When he died, I was very upset.
Oh,
But
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yep. A couple of I've done a couple of the audiobooks too. Again, just and again too with having the time to do it, but and they do help you with time as well. You can listen in the car, you can listen wherever you
Oh,
go.
sure.
And two of the ones that really come to mind. One of them I read, I was trying to get Adrienne Barbeau, the actress,
Yeah.
here, and I listened to her audiobook, and it went from the time when she was a kid, Broadway, TV, all the movies she's made, her musical
So
career.
she was reading her autobiography.
Yeah, yeah. And another one was by a fellow named Steve Stoliar. Steve was a he had a job working. It was the last 3 years Groucho Marx was alive. He had a job. He would report to Groucho's house every day, and he was archiving all of his memorabilia, all of the newspaper articles and pictures, and whatever else was there. It was his job to catalog it and make sure that it was all organized and stored and everything. And just the for he talks about how he met Groucho and his partner at the time, the lady Erin, I can't remember her name, but you know who I mean, I think. And I mean, he's just telling these experiences about, not only did he work there, but he got invited to all the New Year's Eve parties. And he also, when
That
he would,
must have been fun.
and get this too. All right, get this too. When he would bring a lunch with him every day. And when it was lunchtime, he would go into the dining room. He was allowed to sit in the dining room and eat his lunch. And he would go in there, and Groucho and like for example, George Burns would be in there having cups of coffee and talking about vaudeville theaters they performed in like 1915. I mean,
Yeah.
could you imagine being a fly on the wall for that conversation?
I wonder if he went home and wrote any of that down.
Well, he did. He did.
Oh,
Yeah, that was in his book, a lot
oh,
of his
oh, oh.
stories. Yeah.
Well, so
Uh,
he's got a secret and he's telling it to everybody.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just but those are definitely you know, and again, some people, I just I've had trouble sometimes just I like to read, but there's times when I'll get maybe 40 or 50 pages in, and then I'll read a paragraph and my mind will wander into that somehow and go off on a tangent. And then I'll go through 5 pages. I'm like, wait a minute, what did I just read? I didn't even catch it. So I guess different formats work better for different people. I don't know, but so let me ask you this. When you write, do things I mean, are you able, when you get inspired, I mean, are you able to sit down and just boom, there it is? Or, I mean, I'm sure you go back and edit things like that, or do things come to you in waves? Would you
Uh,
say?
I I think it's happened in different ways on depending on the book I'm writing.
Sure. Okay.
But I generally tend to get the idea, as I mentioned before, that dream. I've
Mm-hmm.
written two short stories based on dreams I had. Only two, and I've written a lot. Um, but if I get an urge that I think there's something there and I start it, I just keep going
Mm-hmm.
and it keeps coming to me. I'll tell you two things that I I learned two things from a very important 20th century author novelist about how he wrote, and I realized that I could write that way too. The author is E.L. Doctorow.
Mm-hmm.
And when Doctorow wrote Ragtime, which I think is one of the great books of the second half of the 20th century, American books of the second half of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was asked how he came to write it. And he said, I had an image of a black man in Mount Vernon, New York, walking up the steps and across the porch of a Victorian house, knocking on the door. That was the start of this fascinating, fabulous story. And I use the word fabulous because, part of the word, it comes from fable.
Mm-hmm.
And he started writing, and he got that. And then and I met him once at a party, a publishing party, but it wasn't for a book of his. And he was known as Doc, uh, Doctor, I think because he helped other people with their books too. Um, and I said, "Oh, can I call you Doc?" He said, "Sure." So I called him Doc. And and when he died, and I had a nice conversation with him, and of course I was a fan, and usual, but I wasn't gushing. I know not to gush, but I told him why in a few economical sentences. And when he died, in his obituary, he was quoted as saying somebody else had asked him about writing. And he gave this quote: "When I write," and I'm only slightly paraphrasing, "when I write, it's as if I'm in a car driving through a forest on a winding road in the dead of night, and all I have to see are what my headlights illuminate,
Mm-hmm.
say 30 feet in front of me." And that just for me is says that you're right that way,
Mm-hmm.
right that way. And I'm doing it now. When I talked to you last, we talked about my first mystery, the Great Gatsby murder case.
Oh, that was awesome. I love the book. Highly
And
recommended, folks. Pick it up.
and I agree. Pick it up.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. There we go. Right.
And you'll remember that in it, I don't know how people can say, "Where did you get this idea?" Where I got this, I was walking down my street one day, and suddenly I heard inside my head, something said, why don't you write a mystery?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I guess I will. And I started to write a mystery, but I knew it was going to have to do with a book. And I thought, what's my favorite American book? The Great Gatsby. So I said, okay, it's going to somehow The Great Gatsby is going to, and and at the beginning of the novel, the mystery, The Great Gatsby murder case, the narrator, who's a lot like me, living on a street a lot like mine, in a building very much like mine, um, sees a stack of books on a stoop, and we have a lot of stoops on my block.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what people in New York do is, if they don't necessarily just throw their books directly into a garbage can, they'll put books in a stack on their stoop.
Yeah.
And so the narrator sees a stack of books and picks them up, and one of them is a copy, and he's a collector of Great Gatsby. He's even got a signed first edition. And he sees an edition, a paperback edition that he did not own. So he grabs it up, takes it home. You know this because you've read it, but I'm not telling you this. He sits down and starts to read it because he makes a point of rereading it every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly words on the page begin to do funny things and jump out at him. And when and then a invisible hand pushes him through the rest of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time all these words are put, he realizes he's being told that whoever owned this book either murdered someone or was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And he decides, and the book also lets him know that he's been now appointed to solve that murder, and he'd better, because the book keeps after him.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that surreal aspect, and it was so much fun to write, and people seem to have enjoyed it. You did,
Mm-hmm.
bless you, and and so it came out. It's done well, and I thought, you know, I think I want to write about this some more because the detective and then two other characters in it I liked so much. I thought I got to give them more to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm now, but I knew it had to be a book had to be involved. So I'm now writing the Oliver Twist murder case.
There you go. There, hey, that's great. That's great. And
And if with the name Oliver Twist and
mhm.
it's a mystery,
Yeah.
it tells me, and the book that when I pick that off my
Mm-hmm.
shelf and start reading it, words start jumping out. And
Mm-hmm.
every time the word twist appears, it does shape shifting. And, and so I'm told there have to be a lot of twists in this mystery.
Mm-hmm. Hey, yeah, there you go. Oliver Twist. I love a twist too, right? Perfect. Well, that sounds great. I can't wait to see this when it comes out.
I hope I finish it.
Well, hey, I think so. I think so. But this is great. And so you had mentioned you wanted to have a couple of the characters continue and or
Yeah,
you know.
there's a former police detective named Izzy Abramovitz who lives in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Is a no-nonsense guy,
Oh yeah.
very hard-nosed. And then there's a woman who lives a couple doors down who's one of those neighbor busybodies
Mm-hmm.
who's watching what everybody does and comments on everybody. And I think I think I established them well enough that readers of the first one will like to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm including them. I think if I had left them out, it would be a little disappointing. It would have
Right.
disappointed me. And of course, there'd be so far, and I've written about a third of the book. Um, so far, they're interesting me. They're saying funny things. They're doing funny things. And the murder, I won't say any more about it, but the first book is about a locked room, open and shut case. It's a locked room, and apparently it was a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It was an open and shut suicide case, which turns out not to be. And I found another way to do something like that.
Well,
That's
wonderful,
okay.
wonderful. Well, God, now you got me all excited, and I'm looking forward. And I'm sitting around here. I'm just kind of like, all right, let's get this book out. Come on, David, let's move it, man.
Well,
But
you got me, and Mike, you're such a good interviewer,
well,
and
thank you.
you raised such questions that I realized I hadn't been thinking about some of these things for a long time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
But it was really good to talk about them again. And I'm
Mhm.
not sure I've ever talked about um, storytelling having to be as old as mankind
Mhm.
because people have just always needed to have things explained to them, mysterious things
Mhm.
explained. And around the camp, I mean, we got fire and we got storytelling. So you
Right.
had a campfire with storytelling.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. And I mean, and again, storytelling. I mean, there's always characters. There's just always and it transfers into all mediums, all art forms. Songwriting, painting. You look at a painting, whether it be a Norman Rockwell or an old classic, something is going on. There's some story, something's happening in these paintings. Unless it's like a bowl of fruit or something, but something is going on.
Yeah, people, a lot of people look down their nose at Norman Rockwell.
Hmm.
But and I've in Stockbridge, um, there's a museum, a Norman Rockwell museum, And but when you look at his work, and if you page through the book, what you really are looking at is a history of America
Mhm.
during a certain period, how people lived.
Yeah.
And he takes, he does take a lighthearted, almost comic view in many cases,
Mhm.
but you just see American life
You do.
reflected in his work.
Mhm.
I really think very highly of. I mean, in a way, I think he's like a brother to Edward Hopper,
Sure. Sure.
and anyway, I so I'm big on art and yes, and art
Mhm.
explains. I've often wondered this, and see if you have an answer to this. If Jesus had not been born and
Mhm.
lived the life he lived, what would Renaissance art have been?
Very true. Very true. Oh yeah.
What story would they be? Would all those painters, Giotto and
Mhm.
Filippo Lippi and all those people uh, be be telling in on their canvases or on their walls, their murals?
Oh, I know. Very true. Very true. Even, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I guess, you know, yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, because if you think that would have, if he would have never been around, then there would never have been Christianity,
No, may,
you know?
possible. I mean, we'll never know, of course, but maybe someone else would have come along and had a similar life or something that also
Hmm.
excited and encouraged
Hmm.
and prom provoked people for generations to come, as his life has.
Right. Right.
But we don't know that for sure. If it hadn't, would those people have? What would they have been painting?
I know. I know. Well, I'm sure there would have been other things, but um, and that was the thing too. If Christianity had never originated, you know, what religion would have come out as being predominant? Because it did, it swept across Europe, and then missionaries took it to other parts of the world and everything. But if it never would have happened, I mean, there was, of course, in Europe and the Middle East, there was Judaism, and then there were other religions too, I guess. And I don't know what they like. I've heard of like different pagan religions, different groups of people, that all you know for different ways converted to Christianity.
Monty
But
Python, Monty Python sort of comically provided an answer to that
mhm.
in the life of Brian,
Oh,
isn't that?
right, yes, yes, they did. Oh God, I haven't seen that in a while. What a classic!
Oh,
What a
wonderful.
classic! Yeah.
And they got a lot of criticism for that.
Hmm.
And one day I was walking down Fifth Avenue and I saw John Cleese,
Hmm.
you know, one of the writers of
Hmm.
that. And I stopped him and I said, and the movie had only come out a few months before.
Oh wow.
He said, I really liked, I liked the life of Brian so much, I had to stop you and tell you how much I liked it. He said, really? Did you? Because we're getting so much criticism about it. He was really very upset because it hadn't, some people had criticized it and said,
Mhm.
this is sacrilegious,
Right, right.
which it wasn't, but enough of that.
It wasn't, but it was very Monty Python.
Yeah, it was very
It
nice.
was very Monty Python. What else can you say about it? The and then I'm just thinking of all the sketches that were in that one. The one that made me laugh really hard was the stoning in the square,
Uh,
and
I should remember that.
it was where somebody was a blasphemer,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
and
Well,
they had one of the high priests there, and no women were allowed at the stoning. So what you basically had was, a bunch of the Monty Python guys dressed as women, but with fake beards on, because you know how, since there were really, they would have an occasional, I think like Carol Cleveland or somebody come in, like John Cleese's wife, I think she was,
John
would play
Cleese's wife, Connie Booth.
Connie Booth. That's who it was. That's who it was.
Connie Booth, who is now Connie Booth, who wrote Faulty Towers with him.
Yes, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Although she will tell you, because she's told me,
Mhm.
she's now married to a good friend of mine, the writer John Lahr.
Oh, okay.
And I've gotten to know Connie very well.
Oh, wow.
I didn't write a word of it, but I think what really was going on was she was at the typewriter,
Mhm.
and he was saying, and she played Polly, the receptionist at the
Mhm.
at Faulty Towers, and she would probably say, well, how about if he says this or says that?
Mhm.
So she was so, Connie herself does
Mhm.
not talk about herself a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she didn't want to take credit for it, but I'm sure she did. Um,
Mhm.
but they're only 12 episodes of it.
Yes, yes. I've
And
got them all too, and I love them.
and they're hard to resist. They're
Mhm.
so funny. But she had sort of the straight role, but
Mhm.
Connie's great. Anyway.
Yep. But what I was saying, about that scene was, that you won't, how, like, Terry Jones, well, they would all
They
dress
were
as
all
women.
one. Oh,
You know,
all of them did.
they would all dress as women from time
I
to
don't remember
time.
this.
So they have this scene where somebody said Jehovah out loud, and everybody was there to stone him, and they were like, all right, we're gonna stone him for blasphemy, and they're like, yeah. And they're like, are there any women here? Yeah. No, 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 no women here, And then the fella says Jehovah, and all of a sudden, somebody whizzes a rock and hits the guy right in the head, and then John Cleese, as the priest, says, I didn't tell anybody to throw anything yet. And then you know, he ends up slipping and saying Jehovah, and everybody ends up pelting him with rocks. And it was, it was them, it was
They were extraordinarily funny.
they're treasures, absolute treasures, Faulty Towers. I'll give you a quick story of mine on that one too. I lost my father about 4 years ago, and one thing that we always used to watch when we would watch TV together, whenever there was a PBS donation drive, they would always show. There was one bit they would show from Your Show of Shows with Sid Caesar and Carl Reiner, where they were doing something similar to This Is Your Life. They bring, Sid Caesar out of the audience, and they bring him up on stage, and they start bringing out these relatives. One of them was
I remember this.
Ernest T. Bass. Howard Morris, Uncle Goopy. And they kept, they were inseparable. They're crying and they're hugging each other. And then they separate him, and then he comes running back over and he's grabbing onto him again. And then the other one was the Faulty Towers episode with the rat. You remember Manuel had a pet rat and he thought it was a hamster, and then it got loose in the hotel when there was a health inspector there. My father wanted both of those played at his celebration of life.
Really?
Yeah. And
Isn't
we did.
that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, we did.
I'm gonna tell Connie that.
Yeah, yeah.
She'll be thrilled to hear that story.
Yeah, that was, we did that. Dad always said, and I when I was up speaking, I said, when I told the story, I said, when my father passed away, and Dad and I used to watch this, and I just remember Dad laughing like crazy at both of these. And he always used to say, I want those played at my funeral. Well, here we are. And
what a great son you are.
well, thank
What
you.
a
Thank
great
you.
guy.
Thank you. Well, my siblings had a lot to do with that day too, but yeah. Yep. Yeah, he absolutely
But
loves
also, we haven't talked about your mysteries.
my mysteries. Well, I've been working on a bunch of new material for next season.
Yeah,
We've had a good year this year. But we want to switch things up because we're starting to notice that people are following us now. And we're starting to see some people
I hope you're not worried about that.
they're following us, and that means they're
You're
coming
not
to our
being
shows.
you're not being stalked. You're being followed.
Right, right, yeah, right. Nobody was out in the bushes or anything like that, or hiding inside my trash cans with cell phone cameras or anything. No, but we're working on new material as we always are. And with the murder mystery stories we have, we're always coming up with new props and new gags and new lines for it. And our murder mysteries are sort of like if you like the Carol Burnett show, if you like the
Who doesn't
humor,
like the Carol Burnett show?
well, exactly, and if you like the humor that you'll find in movies like Airplane and The Naked Gun,
Yeah.
we keep it above the belt, but we have like a lot of puns and a lot of like somebody says something but they really mean something else. You know how those movies are with the puns and the jokes and everything that they do. You know, it's a lot like that. A lot of silly props, costumes. A lot of the characters' names are puns on something or a play on something. And
I need to hear. I had to hear some of these.
yeah, yeah.
You'll send. Maybe you can send me something.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah. I sure will. I sure will. We have well, for example, we have one show called Tennis Anywhere,
Hmm.
and it's about the Simpleton tennis tournament, not the Wimbledon, but the Simpleton. And
I'm
it comes
laughing already.
it comes to town, and we have the one character, Coward Hosell, who's a play on Howard Cosell.
Yeah,
He's
right.
the announcer. We have one of the tennis players is Arthur Rash.
Mhm.
And what we do is we have the actor put calamine lotion all over his face and his arms because after tennis, Arthur got into poison ivy farming. He figured he could make a mint in the goat food industry. So he invested $1 million in poison
How many
ivy
of you
seed.
are writing these? Is it just you, or is it? Or it's the group of.
Well, some of them people write themselves and bring them over. And if we look at it, we say, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
Um, there's sometimes where we've had some collaboration on some of them.
but it sounds like it's a group of really funny people.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we have you know, three of us are actually writing now, and somebody who just joined our group is getting involved with that. Um, we have one of the other characters is Martini. I have another, and she's based on Martina Navratilova.
I figured that out.
Yeah, but
I'm
she's walking
quick enough
around.
on the uptake.
She's got her martini and it has hello, comrade. Yes, add a drink to that, and then if you remember, if you ever watched her play, and again, from what I understand, Martina's a very, very nice person, but she was left-handed. And if you ever saw her left arm, because that was her racket arm, was noticeably more muscular and bigger than her right arm. So we kind of play on that. We took like some muscle stuffing and everything and stuff made the actress's arm really big. And you know, she's an angry drunk, who's mad because she's not in the Hall of Fame because she's suspected of steroids, and they look at her arm, they're like, there's no way that wasn't steroids. She's like, it's not steroid. We train very hard in my country, so it's kind of like that. And then we've got a couple of other ones, Dangerous Toys, where a fellow whose name is Dan Jarris makes these horribly, horribly dangerous toys. Devil may care. Well, if you don't like them, don't buy them. Too bad. And one of the toys is a big plastic bag with a Ziploc on it, and it says on there real big, "This bag is a toy." And yeah, you see, it's a safe toy. The kid can put it over his head, tie the thing up, and you can see through the plastic. And if he starts turning blue, then you can take it off of him. Perfectly fun. It's a lot of good. It's good. If the kid wants to become a skin diver one day or a Navy SEAL, he better start learning to hold his breath now. He'll be strong enough plenty by that point. Those types of things. A lot of it is,
It
again,
sounds like you have a lot of fun doing it, and
oh,
it's
we
a
have a blast.
that's the best way to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have an absolute blast, and we're constantly working on different props, wigs, anything we can do to make the shows funnier.
How often do you get together and work on these things?
Well, it
How long
varies.
is the season?
The season normally goes January through November. My company has a contract. We
That's a
normally,
long season.
well, it is, and we have 5 venues in 5 states.
Hmm.
And because we're doing Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, New Jersey.
Hmm.
And we normally go until mid-November. Mid-November, we also have a contract with Warner Brothers and a group called Rail Events. The train that we do a lot of murder mysteries on has they do the Polar Express, and it's from the week before Thanksgiving through right before Christmas. So we're performing in that. I mean, occasionally we get a venue where I can pull a few people and we'll do a murder mystery somewhere else. But usually Christmas time, it slows down anyhow because people are out shopping or, going to Christmas concerts instead of going out to see us. So, yeah. And, yeah, but it's going very, very well. I'm very, very lucky. I'm surrounded by wonderful people.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, surrounded by wonderful people. People get along. And the thing is too, it's like sometimes if some people only do a few shows a year because they're doing other things, some people are with me every show. So that varies as well. And then if somebody's sick or somebody goes on vacation, everybody knows the parts well enough to where I can get just about anybody to take any other part. So yeah.
Oh, great.
Yep. Most definitely, most definitely. So I understand you're still doing your podcast.
Yes, I'm still doing my podcast. I did it today. As a
Oh, is
matter,
that right?
we tape every Monday. The podcast is called The Hour of Lateral Thinking,
Okay.
and there are 6 of us doing it. And every week we take a topic. Today the topic was, of all things, happiness. And we only talk about that for an hour, well, 55 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 times during the 55 minutes we play a song about whatever the subject is. And but we're all well, I guess 3 of us. Yeah, 3 of us are over 80.
Mm-hmm.
The others are 60s, 70s. So we've been around, and we all enjoy each other's company, sort of like your crowd.
Yeah.
So when we talk, somebody says something and we never prepare for it. No, it's totally unscripted. We just start talking about somebody says, well, I didn't even know about happiness until I was 6. And then somebody said something, and someone else said, "Oh, I think I was a happy baby," and and so it goes back and forth like that.
Mhm.
And it's we tape on Monday, and it's aired on. I always forget where Progressive Radio Network, I think. If I've got that right. And the following Monday. So we try not to make it too political or too much bearing on whatever news happen that day because
Sure, right.
gets dated too quickly. But we have so much fun because today we played one of the songs we played was the Turtles' "Happy Together,"
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it was pointed out that it was a good selection because this group is happy together.
Yeah, and,
Just have we're
sure.
happy to be together. It is one of the high points of my week, and another high point of this week is going to be you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That was yeah, well that sounds like it sounds like you've got a great thing going on your podcast there. I'll definitely check it out. Um Very interesting, I'm sure, between all of you there, the conversation gets very interesting as well, having, all
It
the
gets pretty interesting,
yeah.
we've been doing it now for about 8 years,
Okay.
and that's a lot of. But we, of course, will never run out of topics for the week,
Oh no, no.
and,
Yeah.
and so it's so I guess I can say that we don't write that, but
Mhm.
so I have a happy life as a writer and a podcaster.
Well, that's great. That's great. I'm really happy for you, and I'm glad you're doing all these great things. I mean, again, I can't wait to check out the book. Humpty Trumpty 2.0 when it's when I can get my copy of it, and the I highly recommend The Great
E-
Gatsby.
e- e-
Go ahead.
You might get it faster from Amazon, but if you, I don't know that I've kept your address. So otherwise, I would send you a copy. But I mean,
Oh,
you should have one.
well, sure. I can get a copy of it. That's not a problem. Don't keep a roof over your head by giving away the store. So, I'm happy to
That's
support.
why
Yeah.
I keep a roof over my head, but only just.
Yeah.
It's a nice roof.
Oh, it's great. It looks like a great place you've got there.
Yeah, I'm happy in my place.
Yeah. It looks like a great place. It's a nice part of town that you're in too, I think.
I'm in a terrific part of Manhattan,
Mhm.
Chelsea area.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Chelsea, near Chelsea Piers. That's
Yeah.
right. I told you that before. I've been down there for
Yeah.
some auditions, and I know they film
When do
Law
you,
and Order
when do you
SVU.
how often do you get to New York? Not that often.
Not that often anymore. Since COVID, a lot of the auditioning has been done remotely, where
Yeah,
people are.
yes, I've learned that from
Yeah.
actors.
So,
But I wish you were coming to town because I would like to see you more often.
well, sure, yeah, well, definitely. The next time I'm up that way, I'll definitely hit you up and we'll
You
grab some
better,
lunch.
because I'll tell you something. People think of New York as a big city.
Hmm.
Not so big.
Yeah.
And if you come to town without letting me know, I'll see you on the street. I'll bump into you, and then you'll really be embarrassed.
Well, you know what? At 6'6", I'm not too hard to find either. So, well, David, thank you for joining us again today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You know what? And I feel like we're more talking on the phone than we are doing a podcast here, but it's all good. It's all good.
Of course it's.
Um,
Well, tell me your wife's name. I've forgotten her name.
Teresa,
Teresa, tell her hello from me.
I certainly will, David. I certainly will. So, folks, davidfinklewrites.com is David's website, and it's Finkle is L-E. It's not E-L. There's some people spell it different ways.
There's
But
another David Finkle who spells it E-L.
yes.
A very good. I'm not sure if he's still at the Washington Post or not, but he's
Mhm.
a very highly respected David Finkle.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. And remember, Humpty Trumpty 2.0 and all of his other books are listed here as well. He's got quite a bibliography here, I guess we could say, or quite a body of work.
It's getting bigger. I will be publishing my next book which is a novel.
Hmm.
Um, I'll be publishing that probably in February.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, like I said, my father always said busy hands are happy hands. So best of luck to you. Best of luck to you. And then it also says too in the Music Man, didn't it say idle hands or idle mind is the devil's playground, right? So
I think trouble, you're going to have trouble.
that's right. That's
I think
right.
that phrase turns up in that song.
It sure does. It sure does. So
Narrow Hill.
yep. So remember everybody, davidfinkelwrites.com, Humpty Trumpty 2.0, and all of his other books are listed here. And remember the Hour of Lateral Thinking. And what was the medium where people could find that, David? The channel or website?
The hour, I think it's on the Progressive Radio Network, PRN, I think.
Okay, well, I'll look it up and I'll
Look
make
right
sure. I'll look it up and I'll make sure that information on where to find out everything and where to find all your stuff is in the show notes of the episode. So folks, thanks for tuning in again tonight. It's always a pleasure to speak with David Finkle and check out his stuff. So folks, we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Foul Players Radio and have a good one.
Have a good one.
Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed our interview with David Finkle tonight. What a great guy. Again, we had a great conversation, I thought, and make sure you check out his books and everything. Humpty Trumpty 2.0, Humpty Trumpty Hit a Brick Wall. He has another one, Keys to an Empty House, The Man with the Overcoat, and of course, the one that we had him on about last time was the Great Gatsby murder case. And he's working on another novel right now, too. There's something very similar to that one. So make sure you check that out. DavidFinkelWrites.com. And remember his podcast, Hour of Lateral Thinking. And I'll put this information all in the show notes. So thanks for tuning in, and everybody. Remember, get out and support our artists, authors, actors, bands, comedians, you name it. Remember, buying their books, buying their records, not only make great gifts, they make great experiences and great memories. Also, remember, hit that like and subscribe button, foulplayersradio.com and youtube.com/@foulplayersradio. We'll see you all next time, folks. Thanks for tuning in.